Hi everyone, it's Missy, and today I'm going to be making some apple butter. I still had a few apples left over from the crate that I had ordered, so I am just going to try out this recipe. I've actually never had tasted apple butter before, but what it is it's basically cooked down applesauce, and I've made applesauce plenty of times. So I'm just going to peel, core, and then the recipe says to chop some apples. I'm slicing because I want to use my apple slicer mechanism. This is the Victorial apple slicer. In case you're interested, I did do a video on this earlier. I have used this now for about a year, and I am going to say when this thing is shot, I'm going back to an Apple Master. Simply because I always have to hang on to it. It doesn't stick to the counter, and actually it's starting, the pieces come loose when you're using it, which gets to be a little aggravating. Anyway, so once I get that done, run through the gizmo, all I do is I just take the ends off with the peel. And then I just cut the whole unit in half, and then I'm going to put these slices into a large stainless steel saucepan. Once all the apples are in the saucepan, you're just going to add 2 cups of water, and then we are going to cook these at a simmer until the apples are soft. And so we're not going to have to cook them down very long, just until you can poke a fork through it easily. Okay, so I have my 6 jelly jars, half-pint jars, in my canner, and they're preheating. I also got the lids over in a tea kettle, and they're preheating. And the apples are soft. If you can see, they're pretty flexible. You can bend them, and they're not going to break. You can kind of push them down. They're not breaking. They're just kind of folding over on itself. So we are going to scoop this and put it in a food processor. Usually I use my food mill, but we're going to try a food processor and see how that goes. So I'm just going to scoop in. Alright, so I filled it up to my max liquid line and we'll process. Okay, so I pulsed it a few times just because I want it to be more of a smooth consistency, but if you have some chunks in there, that's perfectly fine from what I've read in the recipe so far. Okay, once you have made your apple puree, you want to measure it out. So with 16 apples and 2 cups of water, I got 2 quarts of apple puree, which is exactly what I need for this recipe. So now I'm going to add in 4 cups of sugar. I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and a 1/4 teaspoon cloves. Now, if you want to make this even richer tasting, you can actually add in 2 cups of granulated sugar and 2 cups of brown sugar to get more of the molasses in there. I'm just going to follow the recipe as is, and we'll see how it turns out. And all I'm doing is I need to stir this mixture to dissolve the sugar, and also to prevent it from scorching. I switched to an enameled Dutch oven, so that way it will help prevent any scorching. As you can see, I do have some lumps of apples, but you're going to get those when you use a food processor. The recipe did say to use a food mill or an electric food mill, and I just thought maybe the food processor would be easier for this. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep stirring, and then we're going to cook at a gentle boil over medium heat until the apple mixture thickens. So when I could put my spoon in there and it mounds up on a spoon like it was earlier when it was just the apple puree. And then we should be ready to can. Okay, it's been about 2 or 3 hours that this has kind of simmered on the stove. As you can see, it's mounding up on the spoon. It's holding its shape, and I think that's what we're looking for. It turned a deep, rich brown color, which I was hoping for too, because that's what I've seen in the picture in the book. And I think we are ready to finally can this. I will never be cooking this on the stove again because this was a real baby project. I actually had to leave for a little bit to do chores. So what I did is I turned it on low, put the cover on, and then just left it back here still simmering. And it worked. It didn't burn. It didn't scorch. So I think we're good. And it reduced from where it was. And this is just so thick. So I think that's what I'm looking for. There's still chunks in there. I took a potato masher, tried to get more of that out, but I think this is just how it's going to be. Like I said, this is kind of like my first attempt, but I think I got what I want. So, ready to, my canner, I turned it off and I turned it back on again when I thought I was getting close. So the jars are nice and hot, they're preheated. I think what they said was to take this off the heat in the directions. So that is what we are going to do. This stuff is sticky. I can't believe how sticky that stuff is. So I'm thinking we got it right. So I'm just going to take a jar. And like I said, I'm using half-pint jars. I just got to get the water out. Have my funnel. I'm just going to ladle this in. If this is too thick, the recipe book says I can add apple juice to make it a little bit thinner if it's on the too thick of the side, but I think we might be okay. I don't know. I'll see. I might just add a little bit of apple juice. That is really thick. And I know you can get stuff too thick that it doesn't can properly, so I'm just going to try this one jar. Need to get a little bit more in there. The head space is supposed to be 1/4 of an inch, like when you're doing jams and jellies. So that's usually up to the top ring. Yeah, that really is thick. Maybe I reduced that too much. So get a little bit. See if I can find where there's. It's supposed to be runnier than this. From what I've seen on, while I was sitting here, I was watching other YouTube videos, and I want to try the crock pot method. That looked a lot easier, and it looked like it turned out really good too. So my problem is with the crock pot method, I don't think it is safe to can. Okay, just grabbing a lid over here. But maybe if I cooked it in the crock pot and then brought it to a boil on the stove, it would be. I'm not sure. Should try it out next year when we actually have a apple crop come in. Alright. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some apple juice and get this a little bit thinned out because I think that was just a little too thick. Let me tell you, a little apple juice actually went a long way. I think I put in 1/4 of a cup with the remainder. So we'll see if that did it any better. So. Oh. Not too bad. I think that actually poured into the funnel a lot better. So measure the head space. I think we're good. And then just make sure you wipe your rim clean. Center the lid. And then put a rim on so it's fingertip tight. And what I'm going to do is fill up the rest of the jars, and then I'm going to process these for 10 minutes in the water bath canner. Okay, it has been 10 minutes. So what I do is I shut the heat off, and I take the lid off. As you can see, it's really boiling in there. And then what I do is I put the timer on for 5 minutes to let the jars cool down before I take them out of the water bath canner. And when that's done, they should be all set and pantry stable, and hopefully everything's sealed right. I'm pretty sure it will, but if you have any questions, you can let me know. I'm going to link the recipe for this from Ball down below because I found it online. It's a little bit different than what I had in my book, but like I said, I probably won't make it this method again next year. If I like apple butter. I did taste some of the extra and it was pretty good. So if I do make it again, I'm definitely trying the slow cooker method. But if you have any other suggestions too about how an easier way to make apple butter for canning, leave them in the comments below too. I'd love to read it and follow up with you on that. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.